Hey there, I'm Matt. Welcome back to the channel. Last year I picked up this Yardmax self-propelled mower. I made a few videos on it demonstrating how to get it set up and started and putting it through some pretty extreme challenges. But now we're going to go ahead and look at how well it held up during that first full season, through the winterization process, and on its first cut of our second season. And in this video, I'll be highlighting my favorite things about the mower, along with maybe some not so favorite things. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit reluctant as I was deciding on whether to purchase the Yardmax mower. The old adage of you get what you paid for kept bouncing around in my head as I was contemplating the decision to go with this relatively obscure brand. However, after a couple dozen cuts last season, I found the mower to be surprisingly solid. It handled overgrown areas, wet grass, and even proved it could take on piles of leaves. But here in Michigan, we end up with around 6 months where the mower is just stowed away because of this. It had been a long Michigan winter, and I was chomping at the bit to finally get our mower out of the shed, because that means spring is here. And before we get this fired up for the second season, I am going to do a couple things. I threw this in the shed last year, didn't even take the oil out of it, was in a pretty big haste, had some other projects going on. So we're gonna go ahead, change out the oil real quick, look at the blade, and make sure this thing is ready to go before we actually try to fire it up. After a season's worth of use, this is the first maintenance that I've actually performed on the mower. First thing I did was change the oil. Then I popped out the air filter, and I was pretty impressed with how clean it was. I just essentially threw it back in. Next, I removed the spark plug wire and the spark plug just to check the gap. Everything looked good here. I was actually pretty excited to do this next step, washing the deck out using the hose adapter. But now we're ready to fire it up for the first time this year. Let's see how it goes. And on the second pull, it fired right up. I was able to run the hose and wash the underside. And the deck wash actually worked pretty good. It was really grimy to begin with. It didn't get everything off. There was still a little bit caked up along the edges there, but definitely looks a lot better than beforehand. After cleaning the underside, I brought the mower back into the garage to do a closer inspection of the blade. Overall, the blade looked pretty good. I did have a sizable nick in it, and I know when that happened, I'd hit a rock as I was trying to challenge the mower in some long grass and really couldn't see where I was going. But it was simple enough to remove the blade, sharpen it up, check its balance, and get it reinstalled. And if you want to see all the steps that I took to get this Yardmax tuned up, ready to go, heading into the second season, I'll be having another video coming out soon, so feel free to subscribe so you don't miss it. It's been a long while coming, but it's finally time to get mowing. As I started on my first cut of the season, the Yardmax is picking up right where it left off last year. I mow just under half an acre, and this mower has handled it with ease. Let's look at a few of my favorite things about this mower after a year of use. The price point is hard to beat for a self-propelled mower with the features and engine size included with this Yardmax. The mower's generally hovered around $350 on Amazon, and sure, there's other big brands such as Honda, Craftsman, and Turo that have proven reputations, but at the same time, you're gonna have to plan to spend probably at least $100 or more for a bigger name with comparable specs. And speaking of specs, the Yardmax has the 201cc engine with about 9 foot-pounds of torque. And I'm not gonna pretend that I am a small engine expert, so we're gonna stick with practical use. Last year, I found that this mower could handle pretty much anything I threw at it. I tend to cut the grass at the lowest setting, and even after coming back from vacation to an overgrown lawn, the Yardmax had no issue slicing through it. I'd also challenged the mower running through 3-foot-tall fields of weeds and grass, really just to gauge the true power of the mower, and the mower was able to handle it with ease. Although I did learn that a volleyball hidden in the field was able to stop the mower in its tracks. That didn't go as planned. And even mulching or bagging piles of leaves in the fall with the mower saved me from tons of time versus raking or leaf blowing, and just another example of the power that comes with this engine. And with the lower price point and the lack of brand name, it's really not unreasonable to think that corners must have been cut with production and design of this mower. But I found that this thing was really reliable over the course of the first season. Feels really sturdy from top to bottom, engine runs smooth, and it gives a great cut. But there is one thing in terms of reliability that we're gonna touch on in a second that does take it down just a notch. Hand in hand with reliability, I've had zero issues getting the engine started. Even after the long winter, I was able to start it after just a couple pulls. There's also no fiddling with the little prime bulb that many mowers require in order to get that proper air and fuel mixture. It's simply just pulling the cord to get it fired up. And with this being a 3-in-1 mower, I primarily use the bagging mode, but I've also tested out the mulching. Both the bagging and mulching have worked great, and even when I challenged the mulcher with piles of leaves, it did a pretty good job chopping them down into fine pieces. And when I switched to bagging, it does a great job keeping the clippings contained, leaving virtually nothing behind. While I tend to stick with the cut height at the lowest setting, there have been times where I've needed to raise it. Instances like moles leaving large tunnels across the yard would get torn up if I kept the deck low. The mower has a single lever that can be used to adjust height across 7 different settings. And this may not be recommended, but when I'm mowing, I can simply just disengage our self-propel function, keep the mower actually running, reach down, adjust the height, and then re-engage self-propel, keep on going. No need to stop the engine. And one final thing with this mower that I've appreciated is its ability to handle inclines. I have a couple spots with inclines that range anywhere from 13 to 20 degrees, and the rear wheel self-propelled drive system and wheels haven't had any issues climbing up them. Okay, if you've stuck with me this far, you're probably thinking, gee, this sure sounds like a sponsored advertisement. Well, I can assure you, it's not, because now it's time to point out some of the flaws with this mower. My number one gripe with this mower is right here with the self-propel function. When I first started using this mower last year, it provided a nice brisk pace when set to max speed. I felt like I was breezing through my weekly mowing. Well, after about 10 cuts or so, I started feeling like, speed feels a bit slower than it had been. And after a couple more cuts, I could definitely tell it had slowed down. And I did play around with trying to get the speed restored. There's this turnbuckle here. I have a video about how I tweaked it and some improvement that I was able to see, but it still didn't fully restore the speed to when it came out of the box. And while this isn't a deal breaker for me, it's definitely something I'm going to continue monitoring. I hope it doesn't get any slower. If it stays right where it's at, I'll be happy. It still moves fast enough. Probably takes me an extra couple minutes to cut through my half-acre yard. And when it comes to speed, it really seems like your results may vary. Plenty of people have said that the max speed is actually too fast for them. And so it's one of those things where it almost seems like maybe there's a build quality or design issue that affects the variable speed control of the propel function. Another issue that I notice occasionally is when I've got the bag attached, sometimes clippings will kind of fly out from the side of the deck there. It's not very frequent, it's pretty rare, and pretty much when this occurs, it means either the bag is full, which would be normal for most mowers. Otherwise, what it means is that I've got a clog here at the chute that leads into the bag. Even though the bag may be empty or not totally full, that blockage is going to prevent clippings from progressing to the bag, and they'll essentially just kind of circulate under the deck and eventually just leave the side of the mower. And I think it's pretty common for most mowers to have kind of a small chute here. There's airflow dynamics that play into getting the clippings to shoot into the bag properly, but it does seem like when I'm mowing wet or damp grass, that's most likely when this clog is going to occur. But fortunately, when I notice that the clippings are leaving the side of the mower, not going into the bag, all it takes is for me to shut off the mower, remove the bag, lift up this cover, and just clear the clippings out from the chute. I can restart it and we're good to go. And now sticking with the bag area, there is a little bit of a learning curve when it comes to sliding the bag in and out of its position. We've got these metal prongs on both sides of the bag, and there's these little cutouts on the side of the mower frame. So we have to lift our housing up, slide it in place. The big issue is we've got cables everywhere. It's a tight clearance to begin with, so it just takes a little bit of finagling to be able to position it or to remove it. And one final issue, and it's really not a big thing, is that with this mower, you have to have the engine or the blade engaged to use the self-propel function. There's no way to disengage the blade and use the self-propel. And where this comes up is maybe you finished mowing the grass, you're on the other side of the yard, you want to get it back to the shed. Well, you're either going to have to manually push it with the engine off, not too hard, there's a little bit of drag. Otherwise, you can keep the mower, the blade running, and use the self-propel function. And with that, you might mess up your cut lines if that's of importance to you. So after running through all the pros and cons of this mower after a year's worth of use, the question is, would I purchase this again if I had to do it all over? And for me, it's a simple yes. It's a very good price point for everything that you get with this mower. Few minor gripes. Again, the self-propel function, the speed of it is probably the biggest thing right now. I'll continue monitoring it. Hopefully it stays at least where it is. It doesn't get any slower. But ultimately, this mower has been nearly perfect for our size yard. And after finishing the first cut of the season, this mower picked up right where it left off, gave me a nice clean cut. Again, I didn't do any sort of winterization before storing it away for 6 months, and it had no issues picking back up. And hopefully this video has been helpful to those curious about the mower. Feel free to drop any questions or share your experiences in the comments. And if you want to see more content around the yard along with DIY projects, please consider subscribing. See you next time.